The court is now in session. Today, the trial chamber will continue to hear the testimony of a witness, Real Son, to conclude, and we may start to hear the testimony TCW 822. And we say may in this case because the witness has a high blood pressure. He was admitted to the hospital, and this morning he was seen by the doctor to see if he can provide testimony for today, this afternoon. And secondly, the chamber informed all parties that if we have time, we will listen to the oral submission regarding the request by the lead co-lawyer to request for a testimony of a new civil party, D22/200,000, including the request for admission of a new document in relation to the request for hearing the testimony of the new civil party. Greffier, Ms. Suhong, could you report the attendance of the parties and individuals to today's proceedings? Greffier, Mr. President, for today's proceedings, all parties to this case are present. As for Mr. Nuon Chea, he is present in the holding cell downstairs as he requests to waive his right to be present in the courtroom. His waiver has been delivered to the greffier. The witness who is to testify today to complete his testimony is Mr. Real Son, and the witness and his duty counsel are present in the courtroom. We have a reserved witness, 2 TCW 822. The witness confirmed that to his best knowledge he has no relationship by blood or by law to any of the two accused, Nuon Chea or Khieu Samphan, nor to any of the civil parties admitted in this case. The witness will take an oath before the Iron Club journey this morning. The President, thank you, Ms. Greffier. The Chamber now decides on the request by Nuon Chea. The Chamber has received a waiver from Nuon Chea dated 19 March 2015. He confirms that due to his poor health condition, that he is headache, back pain, and that he cannot sit for long. And in order to effectively participate in the future hearings, he requests to waive his right to participate in and be present at the hearing of 19 March 2015 hearing. He has been informed by his counsel about the consequence of this waiver, that in no way it can be construed as a waiver of his right to be tried fairly and to challenge evidence presented or admitted to the court by any time during this trial. Having seen the medical report by the duty doctor for the accused at ECC dated 19 March 2015, who notes that the health condition of Nuon Chea is that he has severe back pain when he sits for long, and recommends that the Chamber shall grant him his request so that he can follow the proceedings remotely from the holding cell downstairs. Based on the above information and pursuant to Rule 81.5 of the ECC internal rule, the Chamber grants Nuon Chea's request to follow proceeding remotely from the holding cell downstairs via an audio-visual means for today's proceeding, as he waived his right to his direct presence in the courtroom. The AV unit is instructed to link the proceedings to the room downstairs so that Nuon Chea can participate in and follow today's proceedings remotely. Before giving the floor to the Khieu Samphan defense counsels, the trial chamber would like to instruct the greffiers in cooperation with the witness and expert support section to inform the reserve witness TCW 822 so that we can obtain the availability or his ability to give testimony, and the chamber wishes to hear that if his health is not well, the chamber would like to obtain that information before the conclusion of the testimony of Mr. Rilson. The trial chamber is now giving the floor to the defense counsel for Mr. Kilsampon to continue his line of questioning for Mr. Rilson. Defense counsel Kung Samon, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, good morning, and I will continue to put questions to you. And yesterday we were talking about your responsibility and also the structure of the district hospital where you worked. And now I would like to ask further about the code of conduct for medical staff. My question for you is that, were there any meetings to discuss on the respect for discipline in giving treatment for the public during the regime? Answer. During that regime, there were meetings of code of conduct. The meetings were conducted every week. Even though there was no problem occurred, we had a meeting today, for example, and we set a date for the next meeting so that everyone should adhere to the discipline and rule in the hospital. No matter everyone was so happy, a meeting was imperative. So even we fail to adhere for a day, we might be in trouble. Counsel, thank you. Can you indicate or elaborate a bit further about the code of conduct or disciplines for your staff at the hospital? What were they? Answer. The rules and disciplines for our hospital would include instructing the staff to be humble, gentle to the patients, and when giving injection, they should avoid any difficulty, any rude word to avoid problem. In general, the code of conduct for physicians or for medics were all advised. Question. Can you tell the court if there is any case one of your staff violated the code of conduct or discipline? Was there any action against the person who breached or who violated the code of conduct? Answer. Yes, there was an incident like that at my hospital. It was a moral misconduct. A man and a woman who committed that misconduct, and I requested to the district chief to remove the husband out of my place, and his wife is in my hospital, but the husband was sent to another hospital. Question. Are you talking about two women love each other? Is it correct? Answer. Yes. Yes, two women love each other. My question for you is related to the implementation or the enforcement of the code of conduct. When you say medical practice, if there was any malpractice in that profession, you train them well on that. Was there any malpractice by any medical staff at your hospital? Answer: there was no incident like that during that time. In fact, there was no incident. So if any case happened, there would be a report to me. And if it happened with the male or female nurse, there would be a report to me. Counsel, thank you. Talking about provide services, including receiving complaint from the patients, saying that the nurses use rude word or bad attitudes towards the patient. Did you receive any complaints like that? Answer: yes, I did. Some young staff often made rude word or made mistake by using a strong word, but I immediately call them for reprimand, for advice. Question: could you tell the court how did you advise or instruct them after they commit that kind of small mistake? Answer: yes, I just told them not to do it again. It was a brief advice. There was no sanction for that mistake. Question: as part of your management or control over your staff at the hospital, did you know your staff who were from different places? Do you know those kind of details? Answer: yes, I knew. Those staff were all from Takeo province, except Nerihan that we were talking yesterday. She was sent from Kampong Chenang province. Counsel, thank you. My next question is about your witness or your knowledge in relation to Mr. Kilsampon. In your testimony before the OCIC, before under document E3/5511, it is at question and answer 24. You said that, and I quote, I saw Kilsampon at his wedding in Chambok Punari village, in brackets, currently Stung village, Kpop Trabek commune, currently Osarai commune. However, I did not speak or talk to him. End of quote. In the same statement, it is at question and answer number 2. You say that and I quote, in this area, it was the area where Khmer Rouge was created, and Tamok's house is in Prokip village, Tropang Thom Khang Tabong. The people say that during 1957 and 58, Khieu Samphan went there and saw Tamok and met Tamok. End of quote. My question is that, was this the only circumstances, or were it two different circumstances or occasion when you saw Khieu Samphan? Answer. There were two different occasions. The first happened before the coup d'etat. I heard from people that Khieu Samphan went there to meet with Tamok. And in another occasion, I saw Mr. Khieu Samphan for a short time. In fact, I didn't know him, but Ye Kom, the wife of Tamok, who told me that he was Khieu Samphan. So these are the two occasions. Counsel, thank you. My follow-up question for you on the same document at answer 2. And you said that people said during 1957 or 58 about that. Did you hear it a general speaking from one person to another, or did you hear from a person by name or any relation with you as friend that he or she told you that Khieu Samphan went there to meet with Tamok? Answer. I heard from many villagers in a group. Sometimes they talk about that, and during that time there was chaos among the people in the commune, and people would meet and ask from one another, and I heard this from them. Counsel, thank you. Can you tell the specific date of that incident? Was it during 1957, 1958? Was it early of the year, or middle, or at the end of either of the year you have just mentioned? Answer. No, I cannot recall the specific date because it has been very long time ago, and I did not pay attention to date as well. Counsel, a while ago you indicated that there was a chaos in the community. In what circumstances that brought Mr. Khieu Samphan to see Tamok? Did you hear any accounts of any person as regard that meeting? Answer. In fact, some of the people, at that time I was young, the old people knew about that, and people would meet each other and talk about what they heard. But I was young, I did not know much. I did not try to search for more. Counsel, thank you. In 1957 or 1958, did you know that Khieu Samphan hold any title or any position that lead to the discussion by those villagers about him? Answer. As far as I remember, at that time Mr. Khieu Samphan fled to the jungle, but I heard that he fled into the jungle but I don't know where he was living. Counsel, you said that Mr. Kilsampon fled into the forest. So I think you are mistaken about the date. It might be in 1967 or 1968. Is this correct?
Answer, yes, that is correct. Because my memory does not serve me well. Counsel, thank you. Also, regarding the time that you claimed you saw Khieu Samphan, and you also mentioned it in your written record of interview, that is question and answer 24, as well as during your testimony before this chamber. I have some questions to put to you on this issue. You stated that Khieu Samphan was there during a wedding ceremony. You also talked about helping Tamok's wife, Yikham, to carry the rice cake. Can you tell the court, how did you know that that wedding was the wedding of Mr. Khieu Samphan? Answer, I knew it was the wedding of Mr. Khieu Samphan because I was told about it by Yikham. I carried the rice cake, so rather she carried the rice cake, and I helped her as it was too heavy for her, so I put some cake on my bicycle. And when I was there, before I left, she told me that person was Khieu Samphan, and I was about 50 meters from the person. Counsel interrupts. Thank you. Did you hear any music play during that event, or did you observe there were guests attending that wedding ceremony, or what was the situation like when you were there? Answer, no, I did not see any guests because I was a bit far from where it was. I saw only a few people from a distance. And the only thing that I recall was that Yikham pointed to that man and told me that it was Khieu Samphan. And after that, I left. Counsel, thank you. From the location where you could see, was it your observation that it was a wedding ceremony? Answer, I cannot say for sure because I was rather far from that office, and the office was surrounded by friends, which was then surrounded by a bamboo grove. I couldn't see it clearly, but I saw a thatched roof building there. I only saw part of the roof, and that's all I could see. If I were there at the building locations, then I could tell you for sure whether it was a wedding ceremony or not. Counsel, thank you. can you tell the court when you said that you saw Khieu Samphan at Pop Trabat, what year was it? Answer, I cannot recall the year. However, at that time I was working at the Pop Trabat dam, and at night time I slept together with the workers. And that's when I saw her carrying the rice cake, and I helped her to carry some of those cakes on my bicycle. But I cannot recall the exact year, as I had engaged in building the dam for a few times. That is for the same dam. Counsel, thank you. Can you also tell the court whether this event took place before or after the coup d'etat? Answer, it was after the coup d'etat, and the Tribunal regime was engaged in the aerial bombardment. Counsel, thank you. You stated that you did not see Khieu Samphan clearly as you were about 50 meters away from him. Did you ever see the photo of Khieu Samphan previously, for example, through media or newspapers? Answer, yes. I did see his photo in a magazine. That's when I was young, and he was also rather young. Question, can you specify whether at the time you were young or at that time Khieu Samphan was young? President, witness, please observe the microphone. Witness, when I saw his photo, he was young, and I myself was even younger than him. I was still single at the time. Counsel, thank you. I'd like to ask you some further questions regarding document E319.1.21. At question answer 50, that is in relation to the head of the Mang, the H. And let me quote your statement. Quote, the H, who was head of Mangs at the pagoda, protested against the Khmer Rouge orders. He beat the drum to call the people to protest against the Khmer Rouge. But no one dared come. The Khmer Rouge clique only beat him, or 2 or 3 times with a club. End of quote. How did you know about the drum beating and about the fact that that man was beaten? Answer. At that time I was actually there, not far from where it happened. There were monks coming from Phnom Penh, and there was also a head of monks from the Lanka Pagoda who was there. I knew him because I used to offer food to him. Later on, I was chased away and to go home, so I left the place. Question, What were you doing there at the time? President, witness, please observe the microphone. Witness, at that time I stayed at home, and on the day the monks were disrobed, it took place not long after the coup d'etat, but I cannot recall the details, and I did not pay much attention to that event. Question. Who were there with you? Answer, I cannot recall it. There were some people standing there, including a driver who was transporting clothes, and there was an elderly man who beat the monk with a club. I thought he choked when he beat the monk, but the monk said it hurt. Question. Did you know the person who beat that monk? Answer. No, I did not. He was an elderly man, and his head was bald. And at that time, it was like the first time in the area where I saw a jeep carrying clothes. Question. Can you recall the year when it happened? Answer, no, I cannot recall the year. It's been too long. And also, I did not pay attention to that event. And when I was interviewed by the DC camp, I kept thinking about what I knew, and this event popped up in my mind. Question. You stated that you were at that pagoda at the time. Can you state to the court what was the purpose for you to go to that pagoda? Answer. As I just stated, I went to the pagoda to offer a food to my former teacher who was from the Lanka Pagoda, and his residence place at the pagoda was at Lanka Pagoda was 24. So I went there to offer him the food, and then I saw this jeep transporting clothes, and later on I left. Question. Were there many people inside the compound of the pagoda besides an elderly man and a driver, as you just stated? Answer. No, besides that there was a person or a cook who cooked rice who cooked like 4 to 5 big pots for the monks. And from what I can recall, there were 2 or 3 people in the kitchen. Question. Were there many monks staying in that pagoda? Answer. The monks actually did not stay in that pagoda. The monks had been evacuated from Phnom Penh and from elsewhere, and there were more than 100 monks. Counsel, thank you. Now I'd like to ask you some questions in relation to Tamok. In that same document, At question answer 63, you said that you made Tamok in order to get instructions from him on how to produce the medicines. And on the 17th March 2015, that is 2 days ago, you testified at around 2:25 in the afternoon that when you made the Tamok, you was afraid of him and you tried to avoid him, and other people failed the same. So my question to you is in relation to the meeting between you and Tamok when you were to receive instructions from him on how to produce the medicines. Can you tell the court what was it like at that time, because you said you were afraid of him? Answer. Tamok was a person whom you could go to see him or go to near him only when he called you. And it happened to everyone. So if he called you, then you could approach him. Otherwise, they are not. That is his character. Question. Did you hear, or did you see, or did you receive any orders or instructions from him? Answer. One day, I ran out of the main medicine, and when I saw him, I approached him, that is while I was on the road, and I told him that I ran out of the main medicine, and that is Kung Fu, because there were some patients who were poisoned or something by food, and then he told us to go and buy it, and then I told him that we couldn't buy it anywhere because the money was no longer used. Then he wrote me an instruction to go to District 55 to meet with Chong, and that I should get the money from him. So off I went with the letter to meet with Chong, and Chong gave us 3 or 4 pigs. Then I bartered the pigs with the Vietnamese for the medicine, and after that I returned. Counsel, thank you. Did you receive any orders in relation to security matters or in relation to arrest from Tamok? Answer, no, none whatever. I did not receive any instruction for arrest from Tamok at all. Questioned, what about other instructions or orders that Tamok gave to other people and that you knew about it? Were there such orders or instructions? Answer, please repeat your question. Questioned. My question to you is whether you heard that Tamok gave orders or instructions to other cadres in relation to the arrest or in relation to torturing, etc. Did you ever hear such an order? Answer: no, I never heard anything of that nature. If there was an order from Tamok, such an order would not be conveyed in front of me. It would be done secretly. So I never heard about the arrest order or anything like that. Counsel, thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any further question for this witness. President, thank you. And Arthur Berkang, you have the floor.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Witness, I would like to ask you something regarding Mr. Kyo Sampan. A while ago you said that you saw him twice. I noted that when you were interviewed by an investigator from DC CAM, you also made mention of a third occasion regarding an episode in which Mr. Kyo Sampan was accosted by the police in the market. Do you remember telling the chamber about that, an occasion at which you were present?
Yes, I did. At that time, I was a student in Phnom Penh, and I went to pick up a food container from Excellency Suruncha. And at that time, I saw a crowd of people, including the rickshaw drivers. And I asked the people there what happened, and they said that their Kizapon was being mistreated. I heard, that's all I heard, and then I continued my trip to pick up my food container. At that time, I was rather far from where it happens. There were hundreds of rickshaw drivers at the time.
The interpreter wishes to correct that the counsel for defense actually talked of his being stripped naked. So, question, you did not actually observe anything yourself. You only heard about it.
I saw it with my own eyes, but from a distance that is like from one wall of this courtroom to another wall. I was that far. At that time, he was stripped naked, and the rickshaw drivers, some of them offered him a scarf to cover his body. That's all I knew about that incident.
D'accord.
Very well. You mentioned on several occasions, witness, that a number of people you associated with were not educated. They were sometimes illiterate, inexperienced. In your opinion, what justified the fact that during that period, people who were incompetent were assigned certain duties? How do you explain the fact that you were surrounded by people who did not have the intellectual competence to carry out the tasks that were assigned to them? What explanation would you give in light of the experiences you had during that period?
In fact, I asked them the same question. Why the uneducated ones were given the position. Then they replied to me that I should then teach them how to read and write. That was their response.
Et c'est ce que vous avez tenté de faire vous-même?
And is that what you yourself try to do subsequently, to educate those people?
The interpreter did not hear the response from the witness.
Répétez votre réponse.
Please, witness, repeat your answer. It was not translated into English and French.
President, witness, please respond again as your response was before the microphone was on. Witness, I cannot recall the question. Please put it again. Thank you.
Je vous demandais.
I was simply asking you whether you indeed tried to train the staff in order that they could remedy their lack of education. Did you yourself try to train the people you associated with as you were instructed or advised?
Yes, I tried my best to provide education to the children in terms of studying letters and alphabets, and to the medical staff in the medical field in how to make a better injection. That happened when I worked at the hospital, because many female medical staff there did not know how to inject medicine. And the same thing applied to the male medical staff at the hospital.
Donc, est-ce que vous diriez...
So, would you say that as time went on, the situation improved from that standpoint, that is, the standpoint of the training of the people who surrounded you?
Yes, they actually increased their capability.
Je voudrais vous faire parler un...
I would like us to talk about something you also referred to. When you were interviewed by DCCAM investigators, notably that you did trade with Vietnam by barter. Before this chamber, you have told the court that you engage in trade by barter in order to obtain supplies you needed for producing medicines. Can you specify where you got the animals and the objects you use for such trade by barter? How did you obtain all that?
I made a request to Tamok, and Tamok wrote a letter for me to go to District 55 to meet with Ta Chong. And Ta Chong gave me some pigs. For example, I got 4 pigs. And we were closer to the border, so I took the pigs to Angkor Borei and put them on a boat, and then I went to the border for bartering.
And these border exchanges, did they also happen during the Khmer Rouge regime between 1975 and 1979? Were there any such instances of bartering?
The bartering continued until the relationship between the two countries broke off. Because by that time, the Vietnamese did not want to have any further relationship with us.
And when you were questioned by the DCCAM investigators, you also spoke about the purchase of watches for cadres in your region. Do you remember this happening?
Answer: talking about purchasing watches, I don't think I purchased any watches for the cadre, but for myself, I do not wear any watch. I feel shy to wear it, but someone gave me watches I would give to another person. I never purchase watches for any cadres, but sometimes at the economic office at the district, sometimes some dollar notes came with the clothes which were piled up, and sometimes we found watches, but some watches were collected and we gave to other cadres, but I didn't wear any watch. I don't like it.
Of course. So I'm going to refresh your memory a little bit. That's how we say things around here. And I'm going to read a little excerpt from document D313/1.2.409. ERN French 00 80 86 32, Khmer 00 41 88 35, and English 00 72 90 51. And this is your conversation 14 years ago with the DCCAM investigators, and this is what you said. Free translation: I knew how to produce vitamin C because I had been trained to do so, and I would make vitamin C in small quantities depending on what orders I received from the higher level. I had bought the ingredients in Vietnam. This was in 1975, wasn't it? And then you answer yes. Question: how were you able to buy ingredients? Because according to what you said, you threw away all of your money. Answer: I would use gold that had been given to me by Tamok as well as by the leaders in the area. For each purchase, I would bring 4 to 5 kilos of gold to Vietnam. And other people in the village would give me maybe 1 ounce of gold or 2 to 3 ounces of gold, or in order to buy 2, 3, or 4 watches each time they knew that I would go to Vietnam. Question: and when they would wear these watches, weren't they confiscated? Answer: why would they have done so? They were all cadres. Question: in which year did you go to Vietnam to exchange this gold? Answer: this was in 1975 and 1976. End of quote. Free translation. that is the excerpt that led me to ask you that kind of question. So does this refresh your memory? Do you remember now being given gold to buy watches in Vietnam?
Answer. I knew about this, but I do not recall everything, nor did I remember the number of watches or a quantity of gold.
And do you know where this gold came from? This gold that they would give to you to buy watches?
Answer. I don't know where they were from, but when I went to the district office at the economic section, people gave me in a small pack, and I took it with my traveling by my bicycle and to do the barter.
And this kind of transaction, was it authorized or was it well looked upon by the regime?
Answer. I was not quite sure at that time, but that bartering which I did, I informed the district office and also the district people at the border about that transaction.
So you were taking a risk, weren't you, engaging in that kind of business?
Answer. Yes, I did take some risk. There might be accident, especially at the point of bartering, because the Vietnamese took their goods to exchange with us. They keep hiding. They avoid from their police, their duty police. But on our side, we did not fear for anything because we were authorized to do so. So I told them that I brought 4 pigs for you, and can you check your goods to exchange, for example, 10 loom of cloth, the string for the hammocks, the quantity of them, and then the other party who did the bartering, sometimes he said there will be enough and he will supply later. Sometimes he owes us for some certain goods.
Thank you for all of these specifications, but what I'd like to know is, were you taking any risks under that regime? Was this something that was possible in your area, whereas private property had been abolished, that everything was shared? Was it normal? Was it acceptable in such a context to go buy watches with gold? Was that dangerous in relation to the authorities?
Answer. President, please wait, Mr. Witness. International Deputy Court Prosecutor, you may proceed.
អញ្ជើញក្រោកឈរ
All rise.